Now, I have said I have changed my name from King James to Emperor James. He conquers many townships and parishes and lands. How do you like that?
I think you're over the top. Now, wait a minute. How in the world did you pick the Boston Celtics? Now you're calling him the Emperor. What is that all about, Colin? Are you flip-flopping?
No, I picked Cleveland to win the series initially, and then after the first 2 games, I'm like, good God, they look old. But then it became pretty obvious, Boston can't win in the road.
But this is the thing. I know everybody's want to crown him. He's an emperor or whatever, but this is no major accomplishment or crowning moment that LeBron James beat the starless Boston Celtics that couldn't even win a road game. Not only could they not win a road game, they were, 1-7 on the road, and the one game that they did win, Philadelphia handed to them.
Yeah.
And not only that, they couldn't compete in this series on the road. That's how bad they were. And there are a lot of nice young role players, but you saw in the big moment with the lights on and everybody watching what happens to young guys who haven't been there. I'm not surprised. When they were down 0-2, I was on Undisputed. I told Skip and Shannon the Cavs are going to win this series because of LeBron James. Just that simple. The star this time of the year is always going to be role players. If Kyrie was on the team, Boston would have won that series.
That's reasonable. What about this? Boston's just too green for the moment. Did you buy that it was just they're a bunch of kids?
They are kids, and they weren't ready. I think people got carried away because, they had some success. But I think deep down, if you really go back and analyze, even with the Cavs and their squad that's not that great, I knew it was going to be a struggle before the playoffs started.
Why?
I picked Cleveland and I picked Golden State, and I said, this won't be last year. Remember, Cleveland was 12-1 entering the finals, and Golden State was 12-0.
So you didn't think it would be that dominant?
No. I knew that they would struggle and lose games, and then ultimately they'll both get there. Golden State's going to win in Houston. They're going to win and get to the finals for the 4th year in a row. Everybody last year, when in the offseason, Colin, the NBA is so great. Look at all the player movement. Oh, you don't know who's going to make it to the finals. This is going to be an unpredictable year. Really? What's unpredictable about it?
What about this, though? If I have to hear again, Kevin Durant he's exceeded LeBron James in the last 5 fourth quarters. The last 5. That's a big number. That's not like 1 or 2. Kevin Durant scored 12 points total in those 5 fourth quarters. Can we just acknowledge now there's LeBron and Kevin Durant's a good scorer?
Oh, there you go. Prisoner of the moment.
Yeah.
Colin, come on now.
5
Did you
games.
watch the NBA Finals last year when he bust up LeBron and beat them in a 5-game sweep? Do you remember that?
Yeah, well,
Do you remember the big
good
shot?
Yeah.
The big shot came from who? Kevin Durant right in LeBron's mug. Don't forget that. Do not get caught up. This is a bad moment, a bad stretch for him right now.
Yeah.
He could have a big night tonight, and then when they sweep LeBron and the Cavs in the finals, you hear me? Sweep. Not a 5-game sweep, but a sweep. You'll go back and you'll rethink what you just said.
Okay, let's look at LeBron in Game 7 and KD's last 5 games in the fourth quarter. I mean, Rob, you would have to admit at least this. Kevin Durant has the potential to be a head case. That's fair. Hell, 5 fourth quarters? I'll give a guy a bad fourth. I'll give you 2. But how come we always called LeBron early in his career? He didn't have that, that killer thing. What the hell's going on? You've been in the league 10 years, Durant.
I get it, but you're forgetting last year. He validated himself last year. Would you admit that in the finals? He was the MVP of the finals. He came over. He didn't just attach his wagon to Golden State and to Steph Curry and those guys. He was the MVP in the finals. He beat down LeBron. He made the big shot in LeBron's face. That's why people can back off of Durant, because he has some extra credit in his back pocket. He has that.
What if
because he's done it?
What if they lose tonight?
Well, that's totally different. Then people will reevaluate. I agree with you. If he doesn't play well and they lose to Houston with either a gimpy Chris Paul or no Chris Paul, it's as bad as it gets. And that whole Golden State Warriors, everybody wants to crown them as some dynasty, would go down in flames because not only would they have lost to Houston, they coughed up the other finals 3-1 to the Cavaliers.
Yeah.
So then they would have that on their mark. They wouldn't be trendsetters or something different.
Do you when you watch Houston push around Golden State, and I think it was Game 4 at Oracle? I said this as we went into the playoffs. I'm like, I think Golden State's the best offensive team I've seen in my life, and I think maybe they're the second best team I've ever seen. I don't like comparing eras, but when you go back to the toughness of MJ and Pippen and Rodman and Harper, and you watch this skinny jeans group in Silicon Valley, what do you make of Golden State? Do you think they do compare all-time teams?
I don't think so. And even though if they win, it would be 3 out of 4, that would be a legitimate dynasty. To me, you got to win 3 in a row or 3 out of 4.
I agree.
That's right? That's a dynasty. So they would be a dynasty, but I just think some of the shine is off because of how they've gone about it and how they've looked in some situations. They haven't dominated this year at least. And like I said, that 3-1 series loss to the Cavs, it's hard to look at them. They hadn't lost 2 games all year, and they lost 3 in a row, including 2 at home.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's really funny. I'm with you on this. I think I crowned them a dynasty early. The last part of dynasty is nasty, and most great dynasties have a certain guile or a mettle or a toughness. The Pistons did. Showtime Lakers got into a lot of fights with Detroit. Michael Jordan's teams had it. I do wonder about, they're socially conscious. They live in Silicon Valley. They're the smartest team in the league. They shoot a bunch of threes. Some of their stars grew up in the burbs. There is and when I watch Golden State sort of struggle at the end of games, I'm like, they're kind of a 2018 dynasty. They're a little AAU. Now, you grew up with the Pistons. You covered them. I got to be honest with you. This morning, I know it's just gone 7 games. I kind of feel like Houston, as of this morning, has played better basketball.
I don't know. Because Houston's had the 41-point loss. There have been some really ugly games for Houston. And then think about the 2 games that they won before losing Game 6. They squeaked by in both of those games barely. I mean, Kevin Durant and those guys shot 17% in the fourth quarter for them to lose by 2 at home. I mean, that's how bad. Had they made 2 or 3 buckets, Houston would be done. That's how close it was.
So you feel this morning Golden State's the better team?
Absolutely. They should win by 8 or 10 points easily.
By the way, Michael Jordan retired, 12 times. I lose count. Michael Jordan had great players like Scottie Pippen, the all-time best coach, and Phil Jackson. LeBron inching closer after getting this ragtag group, a bunch of road maps and end tables and waste paper baskets to the finals?
No, stop. Colin, closer. He hasn't moved the needle whatsoever.
Not even.
He made a couple of game winners with the score tied, so that doesn't really move me. And then let's see who he beat. Oladipo and the starless Pacers, who he struggled with in 7 games, swept the Barneys or Raptors, whatever you want to call them, right?
It's kind
Toronto.
of a cheap shot.
There we go. And then the struggle with Boston, and then everybody wanted to crown Brad Stevens as the greatest coach or whatsoever. I mean, I would have taken Darren Stevens from Bewitched last night over him. Come on, now think about this. Where was the coaching? When they were making those shots at home, Brad Stevens was a genius. Last night, give me the adjustments he made. The Cavaliers were in the penalty for 6.5 minutes. They kept shooting 3-pointers. Rozier's kept chucking up threes. I didn't understand. They were in that game until the final 90 seconds. Some maneuvers by Stevens could have maybe won that game, but he didn't do anything.
Yeah, I don't think Steve Kerr... Steve Kerr's had a very interesting series where their late-game execution's been bad. To some degree, I give Brad Stevens a pass because they're puppies. They're facing. So he was in a no-lose situation because basically you're giving him if they don't win, you say, well, you don't have your 2 stars. If they win, he's a genius. So how is that fair? No, and it's not fair. I think your point being that Brad Stevens underwhelmed yesterday. I do believe I sort of kind of baked it into this conversation that he should lose. I mean, I picked the Cavs initially in 6 because I remember the day I said it. It's men against boys. The playoffs are about men. Most of the Celtics are boys.
But see, that's where Brad Stevens, all I'm saying is, and even Robert Parrish had some quotes about, did he win something? Did I miss something about Brad Stevens? Stop crowning people before they win. Brad Stevens hasn't won anything. He's a fine young coach, but the talk about him was ridiculous for a guy whose team only won home games, didn't compete on the road. This is fact.
No.
Did not compete on the road. And then they were 10-0 at home. And in the biggest game of the year, what happened?
Laid an egg.
Yes, laid an egg. And he didn't do anything where I would have said, wow, look at what Brad Stevens did. His team's not making threes. They made an adjustment. They were in that game. That game wasn't over until 90 seconds to go.
Hi, everybody. Thanks for watching. Subscribe here to get the latest from the show. Also, be sure to check out more of the best clips from The Herd or go watch a few segments from other shows on FS1.